Welcome to another 100 years, where today I have changed every single nation in the world's youth rating down to 20. Now that is 10% of its maximum potential of 200 that you can see here. That of course changes things very drastically, with Brazil being the highest right now, around about 160. Don't know what the lowest is, but I can tell you now it's probably more than 20. But every single nation is set to 20, so what I am trying to determine here is how important things like youth importance is, the club importance on youth, and of course their facilities. Reputation again is a big one, and whether like third world countries, whether they're fully developed in their state of mind in regards to the editor, which of course we can also see here too. If you go down here, state of development, Belgium of course developed state. There are a few third world states. I'm wondering whether these potential countries can grow, and whether we'll see after the 100 years is done how high nations like Belgium, Brazil for instance, is going to be. So let's jump in our DeLorean and we'll go forward 25 years into the future at our first stop and see who's won some European or World Cups, for instance. Now, of course, when you do simulate, you still have to have a league loaded. I thought it'd be really interesting to load the Latvian league and just see whether Latvia have a big change now that you actually have their league loaded. It's always one of those things, if you have that league loaded, they tend to do better than when you don't. So I guess we're going to see with that. So let's take a look at Latvia then. We can see the generated players. It's still a youth rating of 20. They literally have not gone up, which is very interesting indeed, seeing as we are now 25 years into the future. Their world ranking is 100. But who is top? It is Brazil. Shock, horror. Please, let's hope that youth rating has been fixed then. Dynamic youth rating, 21. So in 25 years, it's gone up by 1. It does not bode well for Football Manager players who want to do Builder Nations, where it's literally only gone up by 1. I mean, I kind of take that back, because England's youth rating is at 39. Now, of course, England probably have a better behind the scenes thing. They have a developed state. Their clubs have a lot more money. Reputation, for instance, of the league is going to be higher. The English Premier League is arguably the best, if not the second highest reputation club that we're going to have. So yeah, they're in the world rankings of 5th with 39. It's almost doubled in 25 years. I'm just scanning through a few of them, and France have 41 for youth rating. So that's the highest that I have found so far. France increasing by 21 youth ratings. So dynamic youth rating, it definitely does happen now since the fix. Now, I don't think many things would have changed in regards to having weird things happen in the international competitions yet. It's only 25 years, so we're going to have like the first couple of generations of new regens come through. But you do see here the France have won the World Cup quite a few times. England have won it once, 2026. There are a couple of surprises though. Portugal and Brazil were the other two winners, but Serbia were the most recent runners-up 4 years ago, and Costa Rica were runners-up in 2034. So that is two very interesting ones that we can see. I'm genuinely curious. Generated players, it's still 20. So Costa Rica, despite having reached a runners-up position in the World Cup, still only have 20 for their youth rating, as does Serbia, and yet they're still in the World Cup final. One thing I do want to check as well, so players of the France nation now, who are French, obviously they have the highest youth rating. What are the players like? They're still world class. They are still world class. 179 potential ability, so I really don't think youth rating matters that much, because how is it that low and we're still getting so many really good players? I mean, obviously I can't really tell just by looking at this how good every single player is, whether there is a maximum number that it will produce because of how low the youth rating is, but it doesn't look like it's changed the frequency of a world-class player. But I think if we keep going another 25 years, and at the end we'll take a look at the majority of all of the international competitions and have a look and see whether many of the different nations have increased their youth rating or not. But before we go for the next 25 years, today's video is sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped. Spring has sprung and our friends at Manscaped have the perfect tools for you to spruce your goose, if you know what I mean. Hibernation is over and the twins need a trim, my friends. So it's time to join the 4 million men who have trusted in Manscaped and use my offer today of 20% off and free shipping when you use code OMEGA at manscaped.com. Now you can pick up the Performance Package 4.0 and that gives you the best bang for your buck. It has completely changed my shower routine now and it's perfect for all your grooming needs. You have the Lawnmower 4.0, which I actually have 2 of. One for the crown jewels and the other because it is definitely the best head shaver I have ever used. Not to mention when I obviously wrestle, I need to make sure all my body hair is off and this is just the best thing for it, and this is the only thing that I would trust with its skin-safe technology. It also comes with the Crop Preserver Bore Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Bore Toner, and it's crazy how much more confidence you have when your plums smell this good. But not only do you get the pube assassin of the Lawnmower 4.0 in this package, no, you also get the weed whacker as well. Now with age, I've started to get more nose hairs and once every couple of days, they are gone with this little beauty. And to top it all off, you get this nice little nifty travel bag and it comes as well with a t-shirt. The t-shirt, by the way, I wear quite often, and some anti-chafing boxers, and by the way, they are definitely the most comfiest pair of boxers I've ever worn. So again, although your balls may look like punching bags, don't treat them like one. Look after them and they will look after you. And remember, size does not matter, lads, but cleanliness definitely does. So use my 20% off plus free shipping using code OMEGA at manscaped.com. You will not regret it, I will tell you that for sure. And of course, you'll also be helping me as a content creator. You help yourself, you help your balls, and you help me. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Manscaped, for supporting today's video. We are now 50 years into the future. The Latvian League, of course, the only league that we have loaded, is 24th in the competition reputation. It was up to 20th at one point there. Latvia themselves are 79th, so they are getting slightly higher in the world rankings, but is it changing the youth rating? No, they've still only gone up by 1. From 50 years, they've gone up by 1. Okay, world rankings. Who is number 1? It's Spain, who are currently number 1. They were second when we come back after 25 years, so interesting that they jumped up. Ukraine's up to 46. Now, it's not that high, considering France jumped up 21 in 25 years to only go up 26 in the 50 years. Their best players here, though, again, it doesn't look like anything would have changed if you look at the types of players that are coming through, I guess. I mean, it's quite interesting, I think, that the youth rating is low, but maybe it is a lot more to do with the clubs themselves. If there is a massive club in Latvia who have, say, we actually took over Latvia, or a club in Latvia and started being very successful with them in European competitions, the reputation was higher, whether that would have a lot more effect on rather than just simulating it, I guess it probably would. And obviously, I want your opinions down in the comment section, but this is very bizarre how a lot of these players are like world class. Like, that is a phenomenal right back, and yet the nation of Spain only have 46 as a youth rating. France have now jumped up to 53, which is not bad. It's not amazing. I reckon Germany probably are the highest now. 65 for Germany. Wow. There's no easy way of finding this out, by the way. You literally have to click through every single one. And it tends to be the ones at the top, I would guess. England are only up 49 for anybody who is interested. And Patrick Berg, the Norwegian centre midfielder, at the age of 73, is currently their manager. Mental. But Spain currently have the World Cup back-to-back right now. They're only, I would say, slightly surprising win was Mexico in 2058, but I have seen Mexico win the World Cup without changing anything before. And Algeria finishing in second place. Of course, we still haven't had an African World Cup winner yet in real life or in any simulation that I have done, and it's something that I want to change. So the next 100 years might be revolved around Africa. Let me know if you'd like to see that down in the comments. Wow, 75 years and a huge jump up for the Latvian League, up into 11th place. I dare say that is probably the highest that they have ever been. They're not that far behind the top there. the Spanish First Division, the English Premier League, 11th place. I am quite surprised. What about Latvia themselves? 61st. They're forever climbing, aren't they? Their best player is this man here. Yeah, I would say he's world class, to be fair. 152 for his current ability and his potential. He's 30 years of age now. Only 31 caps at 30. That's rather low. But I wouldn't say that they're creating a lot of players though. Like, they're all good players, but they're not world class, not like the ones that we have seen so far. But yeah, okay, that's quite interesting. The world rank in Spain are still on top. I dare say that they haven't done that the whole time, but they are top right now. And let's take a look at their nation's details. 53. Yeah, so I really don't think youth rating matters whatsoever in regards to producing the best clubs. I genuinely think it's the clubs themselves now. This is what it's kind of like telling me. Obviously, it must be some kind of factor in, but like if France are way higher, Brazil's only 22. Brazil's youth rating is 22. They're a developing state, not a developed state. So whether all like the economic factor and everything like that has a massive difference, but it's gone up by 2 in 75 years, and yet they're still ranked second. And look at the type of players that they're bringing in. This guy, 32 years of age, absolutely amazing, come from Brazil. It's like he was, he might be Brazilian, but he come through like Barcelona's youth ranks. He's at Barcelona here, but he come through Palmeiras to begin with. And yet he's a world-class striker. Again, let's take a look at his attributes. 166 potential ability. So he's a world-class player, but Brazil only have 22 as their youth rating. So it must be down to the clubs that are in Brazil. These guys here who just have a very important youth rating and have very good youth rankings in regards to like youth intakes. It's got to be that. It's got to be more down to the clubs rather than the nations. Now, I've gone through like the top 10/20 nations to try and find the highest youth rating. So far, it's Germany again. 80 is the highest, so it's gone up by 60 in 75 years. It's still nowhere near where they would be at the beginning of the game if you didn't change anything. I think Germany is like the second or third highest that you can potentially get, around the 140, 150 mark. Obviously, like I mentioned, Brazil being the highest at 160, but only at 80. So this is all with like perfect economic factors, the financial power, developed state, everything that goes into making the nation the best it can potentially be to produce the best youth academy prospects. Now, in that 25 years, there has been one slightly shocking winner of the World Cup, and that is Turkey, but it's not massively shocking again. Even in like the runners-up, Serbia was there for Belgium, but it's the same culprits every single time, which does tell me it's got a lot to do with the clubs themselves. 100 years then, and the Latvian league, it looks like it went as high as 8th place last year, which was where the Turkish Super League is. So even like this, the Scottish Premiership is quite high, to be fair, in 6th. That's one of the highest that I've ever seen them. But Latvia themselves, well, 29th. So after 100 years, they have broke into the top 30. Their best player is currently playing for Manchester United. Again, doesn't look like a world beater. Has come through a Latvian club, as you can see, and the 155 is his potential. Again, 71 caps, and he's only 30, and he's 34. It does tell me they're not playing as many games as what other nations are, which means they're probably not making the latter stages of international competitions, unfortunately. So world rankings then, Spain still on top. Surely you haven't been on top the whole time. Portugal and Brazil, so there's a theme here, isn't there? Those three have been quietly at the top, I think, all 3 times. England in 5th, Colombia in 6th. I want to see if there's any shocking ones. Morocco in 11th's quite high. That's the highest African nation that we have there. What about Asia? Where's the highest Asian nation? I do want to... There's so many African ones when you go there. So that's China. 38th is China. Now, usually you sometimes see like South Korea top 20 maybe, something like that, but that is ridiculously high for China. Could that be down to population? For instance, does population have a big factor in it? North America, there's Mexico there in 13th, which you kind of expect, and then after is Jamaica. So I don't think the US are very high in this, unless I've missed them or breezed past them. But as we go further down, like you kind of suspect to see those nations. There's United States, they're actually 20th. Yeah, it's kind of how you thought it would be. Scotland in 18th is quite high too. Sometimes you see them come up quite high. Sometimes they're right down low near the 100s, depending on how their youth ratings or how their youth intakes have been. But Spain, then, they are still number one. Marc Roca is their best player. Yeah, they're still producing world-class players come through the Brazilian national team there. If we go to their, I think, 56, it's only 50 after 100 years. After 100 years. Right, okay. Portugal, let's take a look at the top three while we're here then. So I think they're all like different like financial, economic factors and stuff like that. 81, that's quite high. Portugal. Will we see anybody over 100? That's the question. Brazil. Obviously, Brazil are a developing state. Is that still the case? It is. After 100 years, only gone up by 6. So that is a huge factor, I think, in dynamic youth rating, is the state of development of the nation, which does tell me if you're trying to do a build a nation in a nation where they are only a developing state, you're going to really struggle. You kind of have to have a nation which is already a developed state and possibly have some great financial power, because else that youth rating is just not going to come up, because unless you're going to play 1,000 years, it's not going to go up much more from wherever it was set, because 6 in 100 years is very low indeed. What I do want to see is Germany. That was the highest that we had last time. So are they still the highest over 100? No, 97 is the highest. So that's only gained 77, which is kind of surprising to me. I really did think I thought we'd get a few that go over to like 120, 140. I didn't think we'd go all the way to the 200, of course, or as high as like what Brazil is at the start. But I genuinely thought we'd get somebody over a 100, and it really doesn't look like it's happened. World Cups then. Serbia won it in 21-14, which is quite interesting. Other than that, no other unique nations have won it. But what is interesting is the runners-up. Scotland were the runners-up in the most recent one, but 2 World Cups ago, Latvia. Interesting. Is it because we had the league loaded? Would that have happened without it? I very much doubt it. Nations like Switzerland were also runners-up in 2098 when England won it. So I think Algeria is, again, the only African nation that got anywhere close to winning it when they got to the final in 2062 there. So hats off to Algeria. Fair play. Speaking of the African Cup of Nations, these are the nations that have won that every single time. So actually we got to scroll down quite fair, but it does look like it's the usual suspects. I don't really see any. I mean, there's a couple of like Guinea who've won it there, Zambia in 2081, who you don't tend to see them win very often, but yeah, it's kind of the usual suspects that you'd expect to win it majority of the time. Copa America. Now, the last time we did 100 years where we looked at the Copa America, a lot of people were telling me in the comments how they invite nations like the US, sometimes Australia. So thank you to everybody who did that, by the way. If you do have any information, please always let me know down in the comments. I love reading like bits like that and learning myself. So I'm wondering whether anybody won it. I mean, it doesn't look like it, because it does look like Brazil dominated for a very long time. They won, that looks like 7, it is 7 in a row. Then they lost to Colombia. I mean, Argentina won it there. If they didn't, that would be 10, 11 in a row. That is phenomenal, really. Absolute dominance by Brazil, and Argentina have got almost as many. But recently it's been Colombia. Colombia have 3 out of the last 4. Uruguay runners up there. Again, no unique nations that you wouldn't expect to see. Chile, obviously, that was before. That's in real time. But Mexico did win it. A North American nation did win it in 2024. Obviously, they were invited for that year, but we can't really say this is down to the actual experiment, because 2024 would have still been all of the real players that we know and love right now. It wasn't any regens. What we're looking for is nations up here being very different, where they've had time to obviously grow and produce regens. Now, the North American Gold Cup, Mexico, I'm expecting quite a lot, and actually, I'm not. The USA have won it a fair few amount of times. Suriname have won it. Costa Rica, Honduras, Haiti. This is great to see. El Salvador as well. I like that. I like that a lot. That's probably the most unique that we have seen so far. And the Asian Cup, which Uzbekistan are current winners. Iraq, Saudi Arabia, China. Of course, we've seen China after 75 years were quite high up. Actually, it might have been the 100 years. They were the highest in the Asian category. So Again, they've won it a couple of times, three times there, but not as many as what you'd expect considering how high they were in the rankings. Maybe they've just been lucky enough to make a couple of World Cups and that's what affected their world rankings. But Uzbekistan are currently the champions of Asia. And finally then, the Euros. England are the current winners, and to be honest, other than Serbia, maybe, there isn't any unique winners that you wouldn't expect to be up there. I think even real life has produced some more unique winners in Denmark and Greece rather than this experiment. So I don't know what you think of the dynamic youth rating, but to me it still is slightly broken in my opinion. Whether it's got anything to do with the developing state and stuff like that, the economic factor that Football Manager has, I don't know. I think they tried introducing dynamic youth ratings. Everybody found that it was broken, or Zealand found that it was broken, and I don't know whether they've actually fixed it or not from that winter update, because by the looks of it here, yes, dynamic youth ratings, it does go up, but if you're being a nation where you want to take a really small nation and try and develop them, I think you'll be here for way too long. I really don't think. I mean, that you could say that's realistic or not, but at the end of the day, people use this game to immerse themselves into a fantasy world. Some people like the realism of this game. I don't know where I stand on that regard, because build a nation, I'd like to see the fantasy side of it. I'd like to take a nation like Suriname, for instance, and make them the best team in the world, best nation in the world. But I also like the realism. So yeah, where do you stand on that front? Thank you very much for watching. There's going to be more 100 years coming in the future, so make sure you're subscribed. Check out Manscaped for 20% off and free shipping, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.